You have $0. Not in debt, not struggling, zero. No inheritance, no head start, no one who sat you down and explained how any of this works. This is what building wealth from zero actually looks like, every stage, plainly. Not the version they sell in books, not the highlight reel. What it actually costs, what it actually takes, and the moment everything changes.
Most people will spend their entire lives one bad month away from zero. Not because they don't work hard, not because they're not intelligent, because nobody ever showed them the architecture. Wealth is not a salary. It is not a savings account. It is not even an investment portfolio. Wealth is a system, a set of decisions made in a specific order at a specific time that compound over decades into something most people can't see from where they're standing right now. The distance between someone who dies broke and someone who dies with generational wealth is rarely income. It is almost always this, the order in which they made decisions, and when. This is every stage of that journey, from the day you start with nothing to the day the money starts working harder than you do. Most people never make it past stage 2. This video explains why.
Stage 1. Survival. Your net worth is negative, not a little negative, deeply negative. $34,000 in student debt. $2,800 in credit card balance you can't explain. A salary of $42,000 that sounds like progress until you subtract rent, tax, food, and the minimum payments on everything that came before the salary. You have $180 left on the 14th of the month. This is where almost everyone starts, and this is where almost everyone makes the first mistake. The mistake is not that they spend. The mistake is that they believe this stage is temporary because of income. It isn't. This stage ends when your decisions change, not when your salary changes. You learn one thing at this stage that nobody teaches you formally: the difference between money that leaves and money that stays. Rent leaves, food leaves, subscriptions you forgot about leave. But $50 a month into an index fund, that stays. It becomes something else, something you can't see yet. You set it up on a Tuesday, automatic transfer, the day after payday. You don't touch it. $50 is not the point. The habit is the point. The first rule of building wealth from zero: you don't wait until you can afford to invest. You invest first, then live on what remains. Most people do it the other way. That is why most people never leave this stage. Stage 2. Stability. Something has shifted. Not dramatically, you don't feel rich, you don't feel free, but the panic is quieter now. You have $3,200 in a high-yield savings account. 3 months ago, that number was zero. The month before that, it was negative. You have an emergency fund, not a full one, a partial one. $3,200 when 3 months of expenses would be closer to $9,000. But here's what that $3,200 actually is. It's a decision buffer. Before it existed, every unexpected cost was a crisis. A car repair meant credit card debt. A medical bill meant missed rent. Every surprise was an emergency. Now a surprise is just a problem. That distinction is worth more than the number. This is the stage where most people stop. Not because they can't go further, because they can't see further. They reach a number that feels safe, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, and the urgency disappears. The automatic transfer keeps running, but the intentionality stops. You have to fight this, because stability is not the destination. Stability is the launch pad. The second rule: the emergency fund is not wealth. It is the floor beneath wealth. You don't stop building when you have a floor. You start building walls. At stage 2, you begin 2 things simultaneously: eliminating high-interest debt, and continuing to invest a small amount every month. Not one or the other, both, in parallel. This is where the math starts to work for you instead of against you. Stage 3. Foundation. The debt is gone. Or most of it. The high-interest kind, the credit cards, the personal loans, the things that were quietly compounding against you every month, gone. What remains is structural, a mortgage you chose, a student loan at a rate low enough to leave alone while the market returns more than it costs. And for the first time, you have a number that means something. $22,000 invested, not sitting, invested. You didn't feel it grow. That's the point. You automated it in stage 1 and you didn't touch it. And now, quietly, without asking your permission, it has become something. You make $68,000 a year, you invest $800 a month. The rest runs your life. This is the stage that feels the slowest, because the numbers are big enough to feel real, but small enough to feel irrelevant. $22,000 doesn't feel like wealth. It feels like a number. But here's what most people can't see yet. That $22,000, left alone for 30 years at the average market return, becomes $240,000 without you adding another dollar. You are not building wealth yet. You are building the foundation that wealth grows from. The third rule: at this stage, time is your most valuable asset. Not money, not income, not discipline. Time. Every year you delay this stage costs you more than any expense you could cut. You don't feel that yet. You will. Stage 4. Momentum. Something changes at this stage that nobody warns you about. You stop checking your portfolio every day, not because you stopped caring, because you stopped needing to. You have $87,000 invested. Last month, the market fell 4%. Your portfolio dropped $3,480 in a single week. You didn't sell. 3 years ago, you would have. At stage 1, a drop like that feels like losing money. At stage 4, you understand that it isn't. It's the market offering you more shares at a lower price. That shift from fear to clarity is worth more than the $87,000. Your income has grown. You're earning $94,000 now. You increased your monthly investment when your salary increased, not your lifestyle, your investment. This is the discipline that stage 4 demands. Every raise, every bonus, every windfall, a percentage goes directly into the portfolio before you decide what to do with the rest. You don't feel it. That is the point. At $150,000 net worth, the portfolio starts generating more in a single good month than you invest in 3. You didn't earn that. The system earned it. You built the system. The fourth rule. In stage 4, the biggest threat is not market volatility. It is lifestyle inflation. The raise arrives, the apartment upgrades, the car changes, the subscriptions multiply. And the gap between income and investment, the gap that made all of this possible, quietly closes. Most people at stage 4 begin to live like they've arrived. They haven't. They've just found the door. Stage 5. Leverage. You are 41 years old. Your net worth crossed $400,000 6 months ago. You didn't celebrate. You noticed, then went back to what you were doing. That is how you know you're in stage 5. The obsession with the number has been replaced by something quieter, a confidence in the direction. Your portfolio now generates more passive income in a year than your salary did in stage 1. You own a rental property, not because a podcast told you to, because the numbers worked and the timing was right.
The rent covers the mortgage. The equity builds. The tax treatment helps in ways that took you a year to fully understand. You have started to think about money the way the wealthy think about money, not as a reward for work, as a tool that, deployed correctly, creates more tools. You borrow against your portfolio at 3.2% to fund a down payment on a second property that earns 6.8% net yield. The spread is 3.6%. You pocket the difference while both assets appreciate. You did not earn this income. You structured it. That is the distinction that separates stage 5 from every stage before it. Before, you worked for money. At stage 5, you have learned to make money work. And the system, the one you began with a $50 automatic transfer, is now running on its own energy. The 5th rule. At stage 5, the question is no longer how much you can save. It is how efficiently you can deploy what you already have. The mindset shift is total, and most people never make it here.
Stage 6. Freedom. The number crossed $1 million on a Wednesday. You didn't notice until Friday. Your portfolio generates $52,000 a year in passive income at a 4% withdrawal rate. Your annual expenses are $48,000. The math is complete. You do not need to work again. You choose to. That distinction, choosing work rather than needing it, is the quietest, most permanent change wealth produces. It doesn't look like what you imagined. There's no moment, no arrival, no version of your life that suddenly becomes unrecognizable. The apartment is the same apartment. The coffee is the same coffee. What has changed is the quality of silence. The silence where financial anxiety used to live. That space, the one that used to be filled with calculations, with dread, with the quiet panic of the 14th of the month, is simply empty now. You fill it with something else. You don't talk about the number with most people, not because you're private, because the number is not the point. The system is the point. And the system began with $50 on a Tuesday years ago, before you could see where it was going. The 6th rule, and the last one. Freedom is not a destination, it is a consequence. It is what happens when every decision, compounded over enough time, points in the same direction. 6 stages, 1 journey. But here's what nobody tells you about the journey. Most people who don't make it don't fail at stage 1. They fail at the transition. The moment between one stage and the next, when the urgency of the previous stage fades and the reward of the next stage isn't visible yet. That gap, that's where it ends for most people. There is one thing that closes it every time. Stay with us for 90 seconds. Every transition between stages has one thing in common. The person who makes it doesn't find more motivation. They don't find a better investment. They don't get a higher income. They don't discover a strategy that nobody else has. They raise their identity before they raise their net worth. At stage 1, the person who survives stops seeing themselves as someone money happens to. They start seeing themselves as someone who manages it. At stage 3, the person who builds a foundation stops seeing wealth as a reward for the lucky. They start seeing it as an outcome of specific decisions made in a specific order. At stage 5, the person who learns leverage stops asking how to earn more. They start asking how to deploy what they have more efficiently. The net worth number follows the identity shift. Always. Not the other way around. Every person who started from 0 and reached stage 6 changed how they thought about money before the money changed. That is not a mindset cliche. That is the mechanism. You cannot build a system you don't believe you're the kind of person who builds. The $50 automatic transfer wasn't about $50. It was about becoming someone who invests before they spend. That identity, built quietly on a Tuesday, years before the number meant anything, is what the money grew from.
Somewhere, right now, someone is looking at $180 left in their account on the 14th of the month. They think the problem is the $180. It isn't. The $180 is just where the journey starts. It always has been. For everyone who made it to stage 6 and for everyone who didn't. The ones who didn't make it weren't stopped by the number. They were stopped by what they decided the number meant about them. They looked at $180 and saw a ceiling. The ones who made it looked at the same number and saw a starting point. That is the only difference. Not income, not luck, not intelligence. Just that. The wealth doesn't remember where it started. It only knows what direction it was pointed in and how long it was left to run. By the time they understand what the system actually rewards, the ones who built it will have already given it something the ones who didn't never found. Time. And somewhere tonight, on the 14th of the month, $50 moves automatically from one account to another. Nobody notices. The system takes another step forward.